time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. Cars PWA, we're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
Whoa, Betty. It feels like I haven't seen you for years.
It does feel that way. It's been at least a week or 2 weeks now. So if you're tuning into the podcast right now, there has not been a lot of groundwork done for this podcast. I was like, I saw Paul online. I'm like, man, we need to do a podcast because I'm over in Cape Town at the moment. For people who don't know, we've got some Send It Academy clinics going on, 10 senders, 3 weeks, different moves going for it. Paul's obviously in the west coast of Australia, Geraldton.
Oh, yeah.
And you've had lots going on. I've been seeing you've been busy. I was actually just looking at Instagram just as I come onto this podcast. Let me just add this because I was like just looking at this video you just put on. Is this the right one?
I did that for you, Ben.
Oh, the bottom there. Instagram on the bottom.
Oh, that was about.
It's gone.
It's finished.
Instagram's just done me. Instagram's just done me.
It's gone. It's gone. It's old now.
Prepared. Oh, hang on a minute. I can't find you. Okay, we'll come back to it in a minute. I will find it.
Yeah, but no, it was a busy day today. I was down at the beach at about 11:30 because we have had a pretty crappy season, but today was the best day of the season. We had up to 30, 35 knots of wind and a 2.5 meter swell, and everyone was excited. And I ended up getting overpowered on a 4.2 by the end and just surviving. So I was sick. And we also had, all the local lads, rippers. Oh, here we go. This is a clip I got amongst others.
Yeah, for people who listen audio only, Instagram, Paul Van Bellen's got a bit of Jaeger Stone heading out at Coronation Beach. I mean, that is such a good shot. Back loop. The drone nearly goes underneath him. You managed to.
Yeah, not quite.
I mean, for anyone who doesn't fly drones, is that a hard shot to get? It looks it.
Well, it's funny because I've had quite a few shots like that today, and I haven't actually filmed too much jumping, and I wasn't super stoked with the shots because I like to get close to the action, but when you're filming high jumps like that, obviously it goes beyond the screen. And the problem is if you sit back, then obviously it's easy to get the whole jump, but then you're far away from the action. So there's this kind of sweet spot where you want to get close enough.
Is there a world if you go underneath him and come out the other side looking at him?
Oh, I'm sure you could, but I mean, the thing is, if I go under it, I lose the shot. Like that'd just be a thing. But yeah, it's that was yesterday or day before.
Yeah, there's a couple of videos from a drone. If you're interested in seeing some drone shots from Coronation Beach, and also you see a really nice view of Coronation Beach and the way the waves stack up. I mean, I was actually talking to a lot of guys on the clinic about that is one of the most perfect places to go and learn moves if you're talking about jumping moves like back loops or forward loops or something like this. And
yeah.
Good job.
No, look, it's cool. I mean, I've got lots of clips, and eventually I'll probably put it on YouTube or something so you can see it in proper widescreen. But no, it's been fun, and no, it's been an interesting few weeks because we had the Oceania Youth event. So we had about 50 under 21s. I mean, it was pretty crazy. I don't think there's a bigger youth event in the world right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but having 50 youth in one event, do you know of any event that would have that many? Benny? Or?
Well, yeah, obviously when we go to Pozo, there's a lot of youth there, but I have to say, there's a lot. I know from commentating there's a lot. I can't actually put a figure on it. But I have to say, I was really impressed with the Aussie turnout from over that side. And I know a lot of those guys like Patrick and the guys down in Margaret River, Jane Seaman and, Serge and all these guys. I mean, there's loads of others to name, but the ones, stand out. They've been doing a good job in motivating the young kids coming through since I was there, which must have been 7 years ago, something like that, 10, 7, something like that. And you can see now reaping the rewards and the level of the young kids coming through. I was super impressed. Like I'm just looking at some shots now. I don't know if I can share this, but there's like 10-year-old, 9-year-olds. It's on the IWT. This is from there, isn't it? Oceania Youth Titles. This is year old Isaac Gill.
Oh, he was sick. That's someone to watch out for. He is a really good sailor for his age.
I mean, what, 10 years old? I mean, that's There's a few others in here as well. But I mean, like I said, I saw the videos and it's just so good to see all the young kids ripping it up. Like I say, I'm going to have to sort of work out, because there's loads of little videos coming out. I need to work out a bit of a plan for which ones, and then we need to do something on the channel, because it really does look like they are having a good time. And like I said, good level as well. Not just making up the numbers, they're throwing down some moves. And that, and as we said before, those little groups just build. We saw it in Europe with, the Pozo event when the Reno twins started off. And as soon as you've got a group of kids having fun, other kids see that and want to be part of it. And you can see that over there in Australia as well, which is super good to see. Because I always feel like Australia kind of missed a generation. There was a few good guys in between, but there was no real hardcore group. And the group is what changes everything, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, it was a super positive event. I was actually quite surprised at how the kids had progressed, because I saw a lot of them last year. And it was almost like you were dealing with a different group of kids. It was, 1 year they're, learning to jibe, and next year they're trying forwards. It's like, well, okay.
You see that in Pozo. The weird thing in Pozo, which is really freaky, you see them when they turn up, like 2 weeks later, because of the concentration of wind in Pozo and the amount of kids and the levels. Kids are turning up, and you can see the difference from day to day, almost hour to hour. You're like, oh my God, like the progression before your eyes is bonkers. And that is what's going to build the sport to the next level, is the young kids coming through. So that's really cool to see. And a big shout out to any parents, any guys that are involved in organizing all these groups, because that is the future. That's what's going to make it. It's people being unselfish, giving their own time, and that definitely helps if you've got a vested interest. So if you've got kids, it does help. You've obviously much more involved to do it, but there are other guys and women and girls and guys involved that haven't got kids and are putting their time in, which is just amazing. That makes a massive difference.
No, it was super cool. And the other thing, I actually spoke to Jane Seaman today. She was one of the key organizers of the event. And I said to her that one thing I've noticed within this windsurfing community lately is just I don't know what it's like overseas, but here in Western Australia and Australia, that we're just going through this patch where there's just this really friendly, welcoming, open vibe. Like I remember windsurfing back in the 90s and stuff, and there was a bit more of an edge, or people sometimes had a bit of a chip on their shoulder. It was kind of like that surfy kind of thing that was going on, where people were it was quite competitive on the water and all that sort of thing. But the vibe these days around the beach with everyone is everything's just so friendly and welcoming, and it's actually pretty refreshing, to be honest, because I just remember the days where people were maybe a bit more standoffish, and I think because the sport has kind of just come down to these kind of the core people that are really into it, we've all just sort of gone, well, we're all here and we all love this sport, and well, we might as well just have fun with it or something. I don't know. Is that something you've noticed a bit over the years? Like it's
I think what I do notice, I mean, I definitely noticed that, but you know, the one thing that would put it all together is I've got a few friends now that have come from surfing. I didn't know them before, but they come from surfing, found it like a bit too hectic for the amount of effort, for the amount of reward, the amount of people on the water, the attitude. And they've come in over to windsurfing or wingfoiling or whatever it might be, crossed over and gone, oh my God, the difference is just night and day. It's like you turn up to the beach now and everyone's like high-fiving you, like, hey, another person on the water, you know, that kind of team sort of thing. Whereas in surfing, it's like, oh God, another one.
Yeah, it was another one.
You know?
That's right. They're like cockroaches.
Yeah, it's really interesting, really interesting. And he says the main thing that they get out of it is like the difference between surfing and, you know, wind sports is the time that you spend actually doing it, as opposed to, you know, in surfing, there's a lot of paddling around, a lot of, you know, when you actually look at the time you spend surfing compared to windsurfing or something, it's just insane. You know, windsurfing, you are windsurfing the whole time, out in doing stuff the whole time.
Dude, today is actually a perfect example of that. I don't know if how many of you out there get to experience these sort of conditions, but 30, 35 knots, Coronation, big skate park, pretty solid waves, and you just step on the board. I said this to one of my mates on the beach. I said, the cool thing is, like days like today, is you just literally step on the board, and from the time that you step on the board to the time you step off the beach, it's just action all the time. It's just action, action, action. You know, it's crazy. It's like you're having to sort of stay on the ball. You're fully powered up, and you just, it's pretty cool. I sort of said it was the closest you'll get to being on a motocross bike without being on a motocross bike, basically. Isn't it? It's the same kind of feel. I've done a bit of motor, you know, cycling in my days, and it has a similar sort of feel, like it's being
without the noise. Bike.
Oh yeah, well, of course, but you know what I mean. It has a similar kind of feel. Well, there's a little bit noisy with the wind, but no, it was a cool day today. I think everyone around here is super stoked because we've actually had a pretty poor summer with wind, and I think today just really shook everyone up, and it was like, oh, this is cool. We had a good day today. It was good.
Well, obviously, you're over there in Western Australia, and I don't know, I've been speaking to you a little bit, maybe not so much in the last couple of weeks because I've been in Cape Town and we've started the Send It Academy. You know, like everyone knows that we do 3 weeks, 10 riders each week come in and we try and teach them some moves, give them some tips, you know, take them to the beaches that are windy. And, you know, some years in Cape Town, it's easy. It's really easy in terms of, okay, the wind's from here. We can kind of hang around where we kind of base, which is, if anyone's been to Cape Town, Bloberg. But when the wind's a little bit changeable, you might have to travel. But actually, we did the first week, we scored every day. We did some 2-hour travels, 2 hours back. We sometimes stayed away, didn't come back. And this week, we got the other one started. We've had to start 3 days early because the forecast for this week now, which it should be starting today, it's gone so weird. Like, even if you drive, I think there's wind on the lake. There's a lake this is 2 hours away called Branfly. That's probably the only place with wind, or as if you got to Jeffreys Bay, which is like 7-8 hours away because the way the system has gone. And it's like, you know, to say that in the middle of January, like next week, we've got a northwesterly wind, which is like, it's like Corro's being the opposite direction.
Right. Okay.
It only really starts to happen usually in February or March. That's when you start to see more northwest. Obviously, you do get a few of these system changes, but there's definitely a weird one this year. It's not as simple as every other year. So I'd be interested to see everyone out there listening to the podcast. If you're listening live, let us know. I know we've talked about this before, but since the last time we talked, which was probably a month ago when we talked about this, how has your winters been going? You know, is it a normal winter? Are you getting better than ever? Because some people are getting, you know, better than ever conditions. And then I've heard others are not getting the normal stuff. Like, I can't complain too much because we have pretty much sailed every day. We're in Cape Town. We've been here since like the 10th or 11th. And I've literally sailed every day, but we've had to work for it. We've been doing the driving.
Yeah. So actually, that's what's been going on. Tell us about South Africa. You've been doing some clinics. How's it been?
I tell you what, I honestly,
what's it like? What's it like behind the scenes of a clinic, Benny? Beyond all the glamour.
I'll be honest, it's a lot more work than people would realize. Anyone who comes on the clinic goes, wow, I didn't realize you did so much, boys, because I'm a bit weird. I like to have all my clips named. So we basically, I give you an idea of a week on the Send It Academy. Like let's say 7 days, we're meant to have 1 day off. We don't have a day off. It's only there just in case people are broken, but it doesn't usually happen. And then so we meet the night before, we go for a drink, meet everyone, we discuss people's goals. I'll give you a rough idea. Discuss people's goals, what they want to work on. Could be forwards, could be back loops, could be wave riding, all the ones that don't want to forward, in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, we'll work on them, because you want to motivate them up. And then basically the week is that, depending on where your level is, usually a lot of people want to work on forwards, and then the guys that can already forward, we might have to undo people's forwards. That's the worst. I gotta say that. So let's say someone comes on the clinic, they've been forwarding for 20 years, but the style of forward is not the one where they can progress. So there is a style of forward where you pull in early and you just huck it around. This style of forward is fine. You might be able to land it, but to be able to do the big stall forwards, to be able to do planing forwards consistently, you need to have a certain style of forward. So sometimes we have to kind of give you the bad news, which is break them, reverse them, take them back a step. And this is very difficult for some people. For the new guys, straight from scratch, it's actually not so bad. But the guys who have already learned the kind of, I don't want to say wrong way, but a different way of doing it, it can be quite difficult, that, it definitely.
Well, they're all habits, isn't it?
As I say to the guys on the clinic, look, you're not here as a good guy for us to just pat you on the back and say, brilliant, okay. You're paying us to have a look at what you're doing, to see if we can find ways to improve, what you're doing. And that can make, sometimes we have to relearn things. So yeah, it's tricky, and it's it can be quite humbling at some point. And again, I'm all up for it as well. I love people critiquing my stuff and going, because my idea is, there's like a Philip Costa gold standard of jumping. If you look at all his jumps, they are so consistent, so perfect. That's the gold standard. It would be very hard to critique Philip Costa. There's not many people in the world. There's other people in the world who are really good, but you could say you could make that more consistent if you, did a few things. So anyway, it is interesting, and it's motivating. A lot of the thing is getting 10 guys together, all willing to learn, guys and girls. We've obviously have girls in the clinic, but this is really, if you ever want to progress. Again, I'm not saying come on one of our clinics. They're always full anyway, but there are other coaches out there. There are other clinics, but just getting, even if you can't get a coach, you just pay someone to film you and get 10 people all wanting to learn the same thing. Obviously having a clinic, having a guy or a girl or someone who can give you some coaching and point you in the right direction so you're doing the right thing definitely helps. But you will massively thank me, because the biggest comment I get from someone on the clinic is, oh my God, I should have done this 10, 20, whatever years ago. That's pushed my motivation now. I know where I'm going. It gives you, like when you plateau in windsurfing, which happens, it's normal. You go up, you plateau, you go up, you plateau, you come back, those plateaus, you need that little bit of boost to push you to the next level. So it's so good. Like it's one of the best jobs ever is doing like the clinics, but I am broken because you film all day, you're doing clinics, you go out for food, you come back, you name all the clips, then you're kind of going through them, you analyze them, get them through in the morning, do the video debrief, and it's like and you're driving 2 hours, it's pretty hectic. It's full on.
Yeah, how are you feeling now? You feeling a bit weathered?
This is the first day off we've had, like in a day off. We've still been doing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been full on. And like yesterday, just for example, if you're coming to Cape Town for the first time, you're on your own, it can be really tricky to know where to go. So even just being in a group where, you're getting told where to go, and that's a real stress for me, because sometimes there's a couple of options and they're all like, that could work, but there might be waves there. Like yesterday, we went to Cape Point, and you have to pay 20 euros to get into Cape Point. There's no phone signal in Cape Point, so you don't hear any feedback. There's no webcams. There's no nothing. And you could sit down the road, which is, let's say, 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away, in Scarborough, no wind at all, glassy, like absolutely glassy. And you're like, oh, do I want to spend 20 euros, go to the point? Cool, not this windy, maybe. We were on 4.2s by the end of the day. Could have been 3.7s.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow, okay.
There's literally nothing in Scarborough. It's like,
wow,
it's
crazy.
like it's even closer than probably Corros and Jerro.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's bonkers.
Wow,
And
wow.
even no joke, even 2 minutes from Cape Point driving in, you see, like, it's a point. So you see the water on the left, there's not enough wind to sail. And then just on the beach where we're sailing, there's just this like really localized wind. And like started off on 4.7 and we were on 4.5, 4.2. 4.2 was dying on 4.2. I should have been on at least 4.0. And there was guys on 3.7s, 3.4s. I think some of the smaller guys. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And like I said, we go back to Scarborough to eat, nothing. It's just mad, absolutely.
Yeah,
mad.
it's so strange. How many windsurfers are in South Australia? I mean, what, like they come there for the
South
summer?
Africa? I tell you, because like for certain instances, like yesterday, where the Cape Point is the only place with wind. If you look on, if you ever looked at Windy, where you see the map, and you could see this wind bulge, and it just hits Cape Point. So it's literally the only place to wind. So every man and his dog were there. It was pretty busy, I won't lie. And I don't know if I've got any video handy, but it's pretty busy. I don't know.
But
I don't even know in terms of numbers. What would it be?
I've never been to South Africa, but basically most of the windsurfers that are there come from mainland Europe, essentially.
I would say most of them, yeah, most of them. A lot of Frenchies there yesterday, a lot of Dutch yesterday. Obviously, some English guys as well, but Germans, but a lot of French, Dutch yesterday. I have to say, from all over Europe. But I mean, such a good the level as well. You've got Jules Danel there yesterday after a route and stuff. Cool. And back in the day, if Robbie Nash turns up at the beach or beyond Dunkerbeck, they're just so distinctive because they've got all these stickers, sail numbers, and everything. A lot of the pros now are kind of like just a normal sail. With
they blend
minimum,
in.
Blend in. You're just seeing all these moves. You're like, bloody hell, standard's good. You don't realize these guys on the world tour, and
you don't realize they've got no sponsors anymore.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's been a tough one. I mean, talking of sponsorship, I don't know who's been looking at the sponsorship world, but there has been some definite movers and shakers. And
tell us, Ben. Tell us.
Well, who have I seen? There's a big one going to be announced soon. There's a big one where there's a move coming, going to be announced maybe this weekend. There is a big one where they lost their sponsorship or not with them anymore. And I don't know if they're going to take a new one. I don't even know if they're going to do the tour, a massive one. That's big. Should be announced soon, I would imagine. We saw Jimmy Tieme has left Duotone. He's now with Patrick. Marion Mortafon signed with Patrick. Boards, tails, everything. That's big. Mortafon, as far as I know, PM Mortafon, lots of rumors going around. Haven't heard anything concrete. Maciej Rakowski, haven't heard anything concrete yet. There's loads. Sorry, there is quite a few. My brain is going. Anyone's got any questions, put in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. That's probably the best way because there is a lot going on. There is a lot of things moving. The PWA. I got a link to this. I can't find it now, but I'm sure Surf Magazine posted me a link saying. Again, I already know this information. I just wasn't sure if it was public, but there was like some sort of talk about splitting slalom versus foil. And then the slalom, you can have beach starts. They could add obstacles. There's like this, but I don't know where I read it. So like I said, I've heard this before, but I thought there was an official press release, but I was looking for it before, couldn't find it. But that's interesting. I mean, they're allowing I think it was beach starts, beach finishes, and obstacles on the course. Again, anyone in the comments, tell me where that official press release is. I really couldn't find it. I looked on the PWA, couldn't find it. But it could be me just having a quick glance around. But Surf Mag sent me a link to it, or someone sent me a link to the Surf Mag link, which I can't find.
But what's happening, Ben? Are they going to just literally split up? So you won't see fin and foil in the same race anymore, or?
As far as I know, no, it's separate.
Oh, okay. Because it was kind
of okay. I'll tell you what I heard because without looking at the official press release, I can't tell you. So this is not official, but this is what I heard last year. The talk was to split it, fin versus foil, like separate. So there would be separate winner of the fin versus foil. There would be an overall winner of both as far as that. Again, this was talk last year. I don't know what officially got decided in the end. And in the fin only, there was options to do a beach start, a beach finish, add obstacles, and this type of stuff. So obviously, it's going to be down to the organizers whether they choose to take whichever discipline. If you take the fin, there's a lot more risk that you might not get a result. But in places like the Canaries, I think the hope was that in a 5-day event or a 6-day event, it could be 3 days and 3 days, or 2 and 4, depending on which way round they want to do it. And they might designate a certain day to a certain class. Again, that's what I heard last year. And then from what I read the other day, which I can't find, I thought that got confirmed from what I said. So I'm just reading the comments now. Yeah, sorry, you just showed it. Seems foil and fin should be separate, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's what I saw. Again, that's what was talked about. It looked like it was fully going through. I saw Tatty Franz had commented on it, so it seemed pretty official.
Yeah, okay. Oh, look, we've got another comment here from Guillaume or whatever. Yes, that's confirmed. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'll try and find it, but I don't know why I couldn't find it.
I didn't mind. Yeah, in Fuerteventura, I actually kind of enjoyed the battles with the fin and the foil. Sometimes, it was kind of cool, but obviously
I think the
foil,
problem is the fin was always at a disadvantage. So then,
that was the underdog, though. Yeah, you went for it. You're like, hey, the underdog, let's go. But yeah.
But then, where was the motivation from the fin guys to carry on when they're just constantly getting
slammed?
Yeah, and I have to say, like, I'm a big fan of fin sailing as well, but I'm a big fan of watching foil racing. Me personally, though, I've got friends that probably still would do slalom on the fin, but they wouldn't entertain it on the foil.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There has to be something like this.
No, it's fair enough. You got to split it. That's cool. And then that way you have a fin champion and a foil champion. I mean, that it'll bring prestige to the fin discipline. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So again, as soon as I get proper confirmation of that, we will confirm everything. Again, I'm sorry if there is an official press release, but I couldn't find it. But I definitely read something more recently, or maybe it was like that was the thing put forward. Maybe that's what it was. But again, as soon as that's confirmed, it's interesting. Like I said, if we're going to see fin slalom with obstacles, it's not full on supercross. We're not seeing, well, maybe there's maneuvers, but I don't think so. It was more like jumping obstacles or a beach start, which again is interesting. It adds a new element, add new people. Every time, I went to Australia, they still do the beach start in certain events, and it's amazing. It's a totally different thing. You've got to run in a certain way, holding your board a certain way, your acceleration off the beach, there's lots more stuff going on. And some people might argue, oh, that's not slalom. But for me, it is. It's just slightly different, which maybe new people come in.
Yeah, I had a bit of a thought today, and I've probably thought it before, but I was sailing out through corals, and admittedly there was waves, so that adds an element that you wouldn't normally see in slalom, or like breaking waves anyway. But I was like there was some guy just downwind of me about 5 meters, and some other person 5 meters a bit behind me upwind, and we're all having a bit of a drag race, as you do going out. But, you're on a wave board, you're doing 22, 23, 24 knots, not super, super fast, but it feels fast. And I remember just thinking around and going, this is pretty gnarly. Like I don't think I fully comprehend sometimes, or maybe some people, how gnarly slalom is when you watch it, because I already get a little bit nervous I'm not nervous, but when you have some people that are just a few meters away from you and you're just thinking, all right, just make sure you don't freaking catapult or do anything stupid, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah. You know what I mean, though? And I'm thinking slalom, add another 10, 15 knots on top, plus 8 people in a heat, plus razor sharp fins and bloody big, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty gnarly. It's like slalom. It's gnarly. It's gnarly.
Again, you nailed it there. And that's what you don't realize when you watch it on the live stream. When you watch Poser on the live stream, it doesn't look that windy. When you look slalom racing, close racing, you're like, yeah, looks. When you're there, when you're even close to one of them, at that speed, trying to take your foot out the foot strap in chop, in swell. I can tell you now, when these guys crash a jibe, the conditions are so gnarly, they do not crash jibes. Like when you guys crash jibes, I'm not being rude, they're not crashing jibes. They do not do that. They are on the edge. And like you say, there's everyone around them. So I'm just just reading the comments. It seems like the information has leaked out from the famous well-informed circles, apparently. So the next season, fins and foils will again be evaluated as independent disciplines. Again, so it sounds like it's not totally official, but again, I heard that last year. There is talk about it. Obviously, someone else said we won't be seeing obstacles this season. I don't think so either. But the main thing is something like that is in the rules that they can do it, because that's the problem. If you have to change the rules, it all starts to become a bit funny. We want to do a beach start. Oh, you can't start in the rules. And then that all needs to be voted on. And then it takes ages to change. So it would be cool if that's an option in the rules. Not saying we have to use it. I say the PWA have to use it, but it's in the rules. I think that's a big step forward for me. Don't get me wrong. We're still going to see, and we will be predominantly foil racing. That is the most guaranteed result that an organizer is going to get. Who are they going to pick, fin or foil? I would say most organizers are going to pick foil. I don't think that's going to change. We will see when the calendar comes out. If it comes out, it should be coming out soon. I guess they've got to start putting some stuff on. But like I say, big sponsorship changes still to be announced. Some of them have already kind of happened. They just haven't had the official announcement. And there's some big ones. So should be quite exciting for the beginning of this season. And again, for a commentator's dream this season. There is so much drama and stuff behind the scenes with sponsorship, with Johan So last year, with the world title, with, all that stuff is going to come to a head when we kick off the season. So we are going to have to build that up as we come into this new season, 2024. And it won't need a lot of building up, but it will definitely be exciting. And it depends where they're all training. Some are training together. Some are choosing not to train together. Then you get to that first event and there's a lot of unanswered questions are going to be answered. So that's going to be the interesting one. Obviously, we're still in January. We have just started this season. I'm here in Cape Town for another month. So any questions about Cape Town, fire them away.
This is a good comment here from Guillaume. How do I pronounce that? Guillaume, sorry. It's like Maybe. Bernard. What was that? What was his surname again? If anyone didn't see that was funny. Do you know why old PWA places like Aruba, Greece, others can't organize events? That's a very good question, because I've thought about that. Remember back in the day, Benny, PBA, Aruba and bloody New Caledonia and all these exotic locations with nice blue water and coconut palms and the idyllic sort of thing. I've actually, just as you were talking, I'm actually going to pull up from 1992, where it shares screen. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit slow at this. Is that working? Yes. Can you see the shot? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, this is from 1992 or 1991. This is Aruba. And I remember watching this video at home, and these are the classic sort of days where, you run a slalom. I mean, they do it now still, obviously, if places like Fuerteventura and so forth. But, this is the day where you just pick an exotic location where the wind blows and the water's warm.
Well, there was money, man. Honestly, it just goes down to money. Like the High Winds event is still going, Aruba High Winds. But again, to put a PWA event on, you've got to have certain budgets to get the PWA riders there. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, but that is just an epic event. I always remember opening the magazines and seeing the pictures from Aruba. And I always remember offshore, flat as a pancake, everyone blasting around. And I always thought, wow, I want to go there. And I actually went there for the PWA we did there. All right. Was it 10 years ago or something like that? Maybe more. But that was an epic event as well. I mean, it did not disappoint. They've built a few hotels, I guess, since this, which has made it a little bit more gusty, but still an epic place.
Yeah. There's obviously, I mean, I look at the gear they got. God, it's a different world back then when it comes to the windsurf gear, wasn't it?
Mark IV.
Yeah. Oh, classic, weren't they? Oh, well, the old Gastro logo. There it is.
Tiger.
Jutamula.
Jutamula. She destroyed it.
Britt Dunkerbeck. What happened to Britt Dunkerbeck?
Yeah, look at the
She
sponsors.
dominated.
Blaupunkt. Was it
God, they were
Blaupunkt?
just. Oh, Jessica Chris. My God, she's still going today. This is 1990. This is 30. What's that? 33 years ago.
Mad, isn't it?
Damn.
Absolutely mad.
Pretty crazy.
If we're just watching an old event from Aruba. Oh, jumping.
Yeah. They did a little sort of thing. I remember this. Some kind of
like
little.
This is what they're talking about. So anyone watching audio only, it's basically boys like with a banner in between, and they're jumping the banner. But is that part of the race?
No. This was just some little special event they had on the side. I don't know what the deal was.
Like a young Robbie.
Yeah. Robbie's into it. Oh.
Yeah.
So anyway, we might find it's going to be a case of history repeating itself, where we start going back to all this sort of stuff. But
you got to give the people what they want. I want to see that. I want to see carnage. I don't want to make it easy for the riders again. And this is not anything against the riders. I'm just saying, from a spectator, from a commentator, you want challenge. You want people put up against it, out their comfort zone. That's what you want. The best windsurfers to, like I say, it's like the wave sailors. If you go to the same event every year, everyone goes there, trains, you're going to get the best sailors. But what is really exciting for me is when they did the storm chase and they just chuck a riders at a new spot, never been there before, in extreme conditions. And Thomas Traversa every time just nailed it. And there is such a skill in that, in just adapting. You could literally blindfold him, gag him, stick in the back of a van, drive him to somewhere, open the door and go, right, go. And he just go, bang, bang, rocks everywhere. He just doesn't care, and other riders are as good as him, if not better, but sometimes they need more adaptation. So there's different skills. And we love to see, as again, I'm speaking from the public or a spectator's fans point of view, is you love to see people up against it and seeing who can get out of that challenge. I think we're very what's the word, conditioned. We're all ready for everything. And I think sometimes people don't like to be taken out of that comfort zone. So if you ask them the question, they're going to say, no, I don't want to do that. Whereas if back in the day there was enough money, you went, you're going to do that because there's a lot of money in it, and you went, all right, we'll do it. And you see it with winging. Winging's very new, it's fresh, and you go, do you want to do that? And they're like, yeah, why not? Let's just do it. And that's what's making it kind of exciting. Don't get me wrong, windsurfing is mega exciting at the moment, but I think we can add these little unknown elements in and not be too strict on exactly we have to do this and we can't do that. But there obviously got to be rules. It's nice to open it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. It's obviously there's been a lot of talk about sponsorship and events. So it's going to be, it'll be very interesting.
I'm just going to cover this because I keep seeing this question asked a lot, and I'm guessing it's the same question. Why don't they use Cape Town for an official tour event? The main problem, the PWA is there, and they will do an event everywhere if the conditions are good and the venue ticks the boxes. But they need the venue needs to have an event organizer who's keen to do it and who's got the money. So let's say it costs $100,000 to bring the PWA and all the judges. They will put on the event, but the organizer needs the infrastructure and the permits and all the stuff already sorted, and the PWA come in. If the PWA turn into an event organizing association, well, it turns into a massive craziness. It's not easy, and there's a lot more going on that can go totally wrong, whereas the organizer needs to risk that to make the money that he's going to make, or whatever he's going to do. The PWA don't give a shit if that organizer makes 20 million quid off them and they get their money for doing the event. It's like, okay, that's fine. That organizer needs to make money. That's the thing. The organizer needs to make money to make the event happen. It's like Silt. Silt makes a lot of money, got good sponsors, but the PWA get paid the same to go, So that's kind of how it works. So if you're in Aruba and you're like, you know what, I really want to turn this into a PWA event, it literally is money. If there's $100,000 or whatever it costs, 120, I don't know actually for the racing, but if, for example, let's say it's that much money. If Aruba High Winds finds that money, They go to the PWA, look, we want to do a PWA, these dates, can we fit these dates? PWA go, yeah, looks okay. Obviously the venue's good, we're in. You know, you've got to obviously can't just do it at the back of your car with no standards at all. There has to be certain things in place. So to do a PWA event, you need this thing. You need a tent to keep the gear. You know, you need certain criteria. And the PWA now, which is the sailors and the brands, have lowered certain standards for certain events because they want to encourage venues and other venues to open up and to allow this to happen. So things are definitely changing. The riders are becoming a lot more open because they're having to. There's a lot more events, you know, for competition, wing foiling, you know, for one, IQ foil it's windsurfing, but it's still a competition to do something, you know, kiting. So all these other things have come in and now windsurfing is competing with them. So, you know, we have to be a bit more open.
Which actually brings us to this question, which is relevant. Collision. I tried to pronounce everyone's name. Does the PWA have to redo its business model with everything going on? I've listened to the last episodes the last few days, and the situation sounds dramatic. Yeah. Benny, any thoughts on that one? PWA, is there anything they can do to help improve the way that they can get these events up and running? Or is it just the way it is? The
problem is you've got to work how the structure works. You know, for me, and I've said this a long time, that there is no guarantee of a world tour. You know, the world tour happens because the demand is there for a world tour. These events happen because an organizer feels he can make money or he can promote his local area by doing this event. So they're the reasons they happen. It's not like a God-given right to have a tour and an organization that does it, but they are a product of the demand for it. So it's like, if that demand drops to a certain level, then the tour will drop out if people don't want to do it. You know, that's what happens. So as long as the demand is there, it will happen. Can the PWA change things? The PWA is the riders and the brands. So they're the guys that are most affected by this anyway. You know, the brands a lot of the time paying the riders to do the tour. The problem is, I think, with the PWA and the business model of the riders is a lot of them take most of their money from the brands. Now, obviously, if that demand drops for product, then the brand can't support as many riders. It's not to say they don't want to. It's not to say they don't think they're worth it, but the money is not there to do it. So, you know, yes, I think riders and guess you guys at home and the people who love the sport and watch the sport who are in positions of like this, they need more outside sponsors coming in. You know, that's essentially what needs to happen. Is the product good enough? Does it give enough return? I think it could do right now. I really think with the drone footage has gone, the way the coverage could go, I think there is some excellent imagery, better than ever before. We've got massive billboards that we carry around. I think it's quite easy to understand. Most of the disciplines are easy to understand. And I think, especially when I've spoke to some of my non-windsurfing friends about the racing, they get sucked into it. Once you start watching it, the problem is, and again, I was touched on this, so I hope I'm not boring people, with the media at the moment, all media has gone very niche. Whereas before, we would be on TV and we would be put in front of people, and those people wouldn't have much choice. So they'd go, what's on, you know, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Oh, it's Water Sports World. What's the other one? The news, there's something. Oh, I'll have a little watch of this Water Sports World. Oh, there's a bit of jet skiing. Oh, there's a bit of windsurfing. Oh, and you would kind of be forced to watch it. Whereas now we've got amazing choice. We've got amazing stuff, but is someone going to choose to watch windsurfing if they don't have to? I don't know. You know, that is a good thing for us as the core windsurfers to watch. We get amazing stuff now, like almost too much. We get spoiled by the amount of content we can consume. And there's still probably not enough, but we get amazed. But the problem is, how do you get those extra eyes, which is really what the main companies are looking for. They're looking for millions of viewers. You know, when we do these events in Tyree and you know, Pozo, and they're sponsored by the tourism boards, these guys don't give a shit about 1,000 windsurfers. I'm not being rude. What they want to see is the news numbers, the ones that go on, you know, Water Sports World in Asia, and it goes around and there's like 50, you know, I don't know how they get these numbers, but it's like a guaranteed 50 million or whatever it might be. They're the numbers that the tourism board are likely looking at. You know, the Asian tour back in the day, it was everywhere. I always remember it. Is it the Asian windsurfing tour? Robbie Radish and these guys, you know, you turn on.
Yeah.
Always, always. And you're like, if you're one of the tourism boards that are helping these events, that's what you want. You've got your country, all your staff in its best thing, water, looking great in all these places, going in front of loads of people. So, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, and I certainly don't have all the answers, because it seems like it's almost it feels like you can talk about this issue and it might not be the obvious, like whatever's not the obvious thing is probably the answer to a lot of these things. Sometimes it's kind of weird. Niels has said, PWA, more options, disciplines to advertise, sell for sponsors. Sure, that's a good idea.
Well, the thing is, it's not a science question. It's not like that plus that or a maths question equals that. There's no guarantee with anything, you know. I think that just comes down to, for what we do in the sport now, we just have to get that like you were saying on the beach, everyone's coming together, everyone's enjoying it. We got to do our thing. And I always found that in life, when you get down and you do your thing, you're enjoying it and you're just going with it, that kind of builds anyway. It has to build organically. It's very difficult to force something to happen. You know, if you force something to happen, chances are it's very short-lived. It has to naturally, organically build, and that's when it turns into stuff. You know, I really think, you know, in windsurfing, we don't have to have these things. We can all enjoy windsurfing. But for me, certain things are pretty cool. And you can see the ones like the youths, you know, they put them in a place, and then it does happen because they're having fun. They're not forcing the kids with gunpoint now to go windsurfing, but someone has to put them in a place and to enjoy that and to give them the options to do it. And then it hopefully naturally builds. And you can see in all these times, it kind of does.
This is slightly left field here, but if you win a PWA World Cup slalom event, what's the prize money? What do you get?
I think for winning, could be wrong, so don't quote me. I think it could be 6,000 for winning.
What, for the winner or just
for the winner of the event?
Okay,
it could be 4,000. But my head, it says 6, but it could be 4. I don't know why. I've got those two figures in my head.
Is that US dollars or?
I believe it is.
And what about the men?
That was the men, sorry.
Oh, okay. And then the women?
Well, I think it's the same now.
Yeah, okay. So it is all equal. Yeah, okay.
I think that was the rule. It could be 4. Oh, there we go. Wave winner. Again, it changes on certain events because it never used to. But now there has been a drop in standard for certain events, because obviously certain events offer certain things which are amazing. For Fiji, offers amazing conditions. You know, it's not easy to organize an event there. So now the PWA want to make it easier for those guys to organize an event. And the prize money is the easiest thing to cut. It's not good for the riders, but if they don't have an event there, it's also not good for the riders. So the riders that want to show their stuff, they want to go to these places and have these opportunities, you know, maybe outside sponsors can help them, then they're given the opportunities. Because I think for a long time, riders have kind of dismissed the role of an organizer. It's like, yeah, but they're going to organize it. They're not. They don't have to. You know, it's a lot of work to organize events and to put these stuff on. And a lot of work goes on. And that organizer will only do it if there's money in it. So if you're, you know, that's the difficulty.
Yeah, no, for sure. Going back to the comments here, what have we got? There's quite a few coming in. For some reason, just slalom. Do we know the budget of the Red Bull King of the Air? Actually, sorry, let me just bring the question up. I actually don't remember the name. I did send it to Ben a few weeks ago, but if anyone is interested in looking for it, there was an interesting video I found on YouTube where kiters had made a video about the sponsorship of kiters. And I can't remember the name of the video.
Yeah, no,
it was
saw
actually,
that. Yeah, you sent it.
yeah, it was quite interesting because
It's that new Big Air. I'll tell you
at-
what it is, because someone can maybe fill in the name. It's that new Big Air League thing.
Okay. Well,
That
that's
guy.
so look up that. But it was interesting because around that time, Ben and I were talking on the podcast about the issue of sailors' sponsorships and how it's getting a bit harder, or this year, or whatever. And then this video talks about what's happening in the kite world, and they're having exactly the same issues. In fact, it's not just kiting. I remember I've seen a few articles on various different sporting, sort of more nichey sports like bodyboarding. Bodyboarding. There was an article I read in one of the surf magazines that said that whole tour is almost bankrupt or something, and it could go under. And so, sometimes it might seem like windsurfing is the odd one out, but in fact, it's a bit of a universal problem with a lot of these the nichey sports as well, isn't it?
It's
It's
exactly the same. I think
yeah,
everyone's got the same thing.
yeah,
Literally everyone. You look at mountain
mm,
biking. I've seen them guys complaining. Everyone is
yeah,
complaining. Then you think, okay, is it a thing about maybe less people are interested in competitive sport? At these levels, maybe video type stuff is taking over.
yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. So I guess we just have to somehow stick our neck out amongst the crowd here. Oh, sorry, Ben. You brought up a comment and I just overrode it. So, what is the PWA schedule for this year? You could look it up, but he wants you to say it, Benny. Do you have I'm assuming schedule for the slalom?
Is it up yet? I haven't seen a calendar.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong.
I have no idea. While you're looking at that, I can.
There's not an official calendar, as far as I know, like open to the public. But then the IWT has obviously put out a calendar, but I haven't seen an official PWA one. So, there is things happening. Again, I'm not an official spokesperson from the PWA. This is me just talking as Ben Profit, windsurfing fan, kind of slight insider to certain knowledge, but not everything. So it's not so easy. But I haven't seen it. I know Japan, in theory, should be coming up, but there's no. When I look on the PWA website, it's not official on there, but it is on the IWT. So I think we will be seeing something very official from both parties, which is together very soon.
And maybe this is, as the commenter said here, maybe the future is Qatar and Saudi Arabia, where all the money is.
A bit of sports washing.
Yeah.
It's Benoit. I can't tell if he's having a go here. Let's imagine the situation gets solved overnight. What topic would you choose to cover on these podcasts? Is he basically saying we always talk about this? It's hard not to. I apologize if that's what you mean. We're going on and on and on about it. But I mean, that is kind of the hot topic for that world. If you've got any ideas for topics you want to discuss, you want us to delve into, please feel free to offer some useful comments. I am quite willing to discuss other topics. Just sometimes it does.
And we are going to get some guests on the show as well. There's a few lined up.
Old Falcon.
But at the moment, Ben and I are just talking about what's some of the talking points in the professional world of windsurfing. Yeah, this is so this comment. Just imagine a series like Drive to Survive for windsurfing, attracting new viewers and outside sponsors, because now it seems like us windsurfers found the tour via the constructors. I think I totally agree. I think the action of windsurfing itself is interesting to some people, especially us keen windsurfers. But people want a story. That's basically it. They want a story. They want personalities. They want a bit of drama, a bit of excitement, in to people. And I firmly believe that no tour is going to hit mainstream unless you do some kind of behind the scenes stuff that is, that basically connects people to the personalities into the sport. Because otherwise, they're just seeing action, and they can't connect. They need something to connect. You need something to bring people in who don't windsurf but might be interested in just following something a bit out of the ordinary. Yeah, I firmly believe that. What do you think, Ben? You got any thoughts? I mean, it's
the Drive to Survive. I think that for me is the interesting side of it. But then the problem you have is you end up a lot of the time, and I see this with a lot of videos, and again, it feels like a sign of the times where you can't be controversial. You can't say anything that interesting or a little bit on the edge because these people jumping down your foot straight away.
I don't know. Have you not been onto my Instagram page lately?
No, but I mean, I think but that is part of it, is having different opinions, different things to liven shit up. Like I'm a bit of a provocateur sometimes, more sometimes just to be one rather than it's 100% what I believe. But I think I've seen it so many times where things get very stale and boring. You see it with everything. And I'm not saying I could be that person as well. Again, everyone's got the right to have an opinion on these things. But just mixing it up, changing it up, you know, videos are a classic example, just changing up the styles of videos, doing different things. You know, like I said, maybe Windsurfing.TV is getting boring for some people. And I feel it sometimes. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I need to change it up. You know, it's difficult. It's not easy, though. You know, it's not easy. And people like Drive to Survive would be amazing if we actually covered the proper things. But the problem is with that, I could just imagine if we covered some of the stuff that I see, it would be amazing. But
exactly,
the sponsors drop out. It's like some of the stuff is gold and very interesting, but most of the stuff that is interesting now gets picked on and you get cancelled for it. And it's like this. It's like, how do you make it interesting without this? And you can't. Like, if I look at all the people that I was interested to as a kid, the people that stand out, the people that I look back on, McEnroe, you know, like these, if you think of iconic images of people in sports, they're usually the ones that are a bit out there, a bit controversial. And at the time, maybe they're getting shit, but they're the ones that create this interest in a sport. If everyone is vanilla and perfect and you know, happy and whatever, it don't work. Everyone has
exactly. We don't want everyone happy.
No, you need the drama, but we've got to be accepting of it as well as we like. You can have a comment on it. You cannot like things. That's fine. But forget the cancelling. Forget the you've got to take this off. You've got to do this. You're like, well, no, just you might have to agree with it. But that's what makes it interesting. Again, for me, that's my own personal opinion. Nothing to do with anything else. Just what I like. I've said it before. Sean Palmer in mountain biking, absolute friggin' legend. And he was only in the sport for a little bit, but he made it into the top stuff. He was making on the TV. You look at most sports when they get this individual character that's got brilliance, but he's a little bit on the edge. That's usually why the sport gets there. It's not for other reasons, like a guy winning for 20 years in a row. This gets boring. What people need is this not knowing where it's going. It's like you don't know if it's going to happen. Oh, that happens. That's what makes people watch. When it's very don't work.
Yeah. But when you say, oh, if you show everything, sponsors will drop out. Which sponsors are you talking about? Like,
no, but I'm saying in this day and age, again, maybe I'm talking shit. You tell me, but like I see it with most things. Most sponsors don't want any controversy, and within the world we live in social media, if something isn't quite right, the loudest voice is not the most popular voice. It's usually a small majority, but they can make it sound like it's a popular voice. And then as a brand, you don't feel like you want this backlash kind of thing. You see them, they just don't want the controversy. I'm one of these people. Maybe I'm a bad example, but some people just don't want it. They might not agree with it, but they wouldn't defend it online because they can't be asked with all the hassle and all the bits that you get. You know,
but you say sponsors don't want controversy, but then why is Drive to Survive so popular?
That's a massively expensive budget. And they just do a great job. But if someone could produce that for a reasonable amount of money, but who pays for that? You know, these camera guys, these guys behind the scenes, they're not doing it for nothing. You know, Drive to Survive is like thrown around like, oh yeah, we just do it. It still costs money. And in windsurfing, 10 grand, 15 grand, whatever it might be, 20 grand, 5 grand, it's still someone has to find that money and put it in. So where does that money come from? That's the question. Like, who funds that? I have no doubt in the world that it would definitely help build a base. Would it get new people who don't follow windsurfing in? I'm not so sure. But would it make more windsurfers maybe interested in the tour? Yes. The whole controversy with Johan So, Matteo Iachino, Matt Czechowski, all that last year, you know, more Johan So with the sail, that made people aware of it. You know, look at golf. Tiger Woods has done more for golf than anything else. I was watching something the other day, and it's like there's some little event going on. He's playing with his son, and people are moaning, "Oh, you're only covering it because Tiger's in it." They're like, "Well, if Tiger wasn't in it, we wouldn't be covering it." So you've got to work out why these things are getting covered.
Yeah. And he had about 50 girlfriends all at once as well, so people loved it. I thought, you know, no, but there's a lot of controversy.
If you've read the book on Tiger, I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever read.
But I don't know. I think for sponsors, what they want to see is eyeballs and engagement. Like, you know, so I feel that if there's a bit of controversy, even though people go, "Oh, it's controversy," but if say 1,000 people are watching a windsurf event, everything's vanilla, and all of a sudden you have a bit of behind the scenes where Maciek's punching on with someone else, and all of those numbers go up to 10,000 or 20,000, you think the sponsor's going to care that much? They're like, "Oh, hold on, got 10-fold viewers now." Look, I don't know. Maybe some sponsors will think, "Oh, I don't want to be a part of this." But if you look at what's on, say, television, I don't know what it's like overseas, but in Australia, there's all these crappy shows these reality shows where it's just constant drama. I mean, it's way too much crap, but that's what
so cheap to do those shows. They're so cheap.
But what I'm saying is,
this is the good thing with those shows. This is what I heard. I saw a program on it. It's like the reason is they pay these non-celebrities a small amount of money, or some celebrities some money. It's not a lot, and then they don't even have to write a storyline. They haven't got to pay anyone. They haven't got to do anything. It's a bit like this bloody podcast. We're just chatting shit, you know. But you know, weirdly, if I have to plan this for a week and I have to employ a camera guy to come in and then I have to edit it, that whole cost goes crazy. And the outcome is not massively different to what we're doing now. It's just a little less planned. And those shows are very similar. They put everyone in a place and then they just film it and go, "Okay, what's going to happen?" And if they put enough controversial people in a place, something will happen. And that's why those shows work. They cost nothing, you know. So again, look, I'm
not saying that windsurfing is going to get a Drive to Survive budget anytime soon, but I think that people want to see like authenticity with what is actually happening behind the scenes. As you said, if everything is just happy smiles when you know that behind the scenes they're having a bit of an argument or some people are having a clash, I mean, who doesn't want to see that? Because it creates a bit of drama, and it's like, well, what's actually going on? If they're competitive people, it adds to the event. And then when they go on the water, they take it out in the waters, who can beat who.
Exactly. It's building the characters. Everyone's said it for years. It's not a new thing. You have to build characters, and it contrary to popular belief, as I see around, you can build your own character in this day and age. You know, if you've got half a brain, you can build your own character, which should be based on the real character. You know what I mean? But if you leave it up to the media to create a character, you might not like the character create. You know, you look at the old days for windsurfing. Bjorn was the Terminator. Robbie Nash was, you know, whatever. Then there's Josh Stone, Brian Talma, you know, and you think back to who the guys that you remember, you always remember the characters. And then there's a couple of amazing windsurfers that we don't talk about. Not because they weren't good, not because they weren't doing stuff, but because they didn't have like this media almost character. They didn't put themselves in situations. So if you're that guy and you're winning everything, you are not going to stand out. You know, so again, not everyone's into that. Some people are into competition for the sake of competition. They want to get results, and that's totally fine. But I think in this day and age we're in now, if you've not got like a character, or, you know, I don't say character because that makes it sound like it's made up. But most people,
an identity of some kind. Yeah. Yeah, well, you look at the windsurfers that are probably the most in your face now. They are the ones that have the strongest identities as well. Or I know it's
Okay, just let me cover this just because it's interesting. So Bill says, I'd rather the drama come from the conditions like wait. I totally agree. But what we need is that, and that creates the characters that we see. So these are not fake characters, but what we want to see is behind the scenes when these waves are going off, if a couple of the boys are saying stuff which gives you an insight into what they're thinking. These are the characters I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some drama where someone's peed in the wets, well, maybe, but like certain things. But if it comes from conditions and stress from competition and whatever, that's what you want to see. You want to see the behind the scenes when they're the family guy or the playboy, whatever they're doing in their normal life, and then you want to see the competition side of them, and you want to make your own opinion. And that's where the interest comes from. It's seeing the change, seeing the similarities, going, oh my God, I didn't know this guy was like this. Oh, this is so cool. And some people relate to certain things and some people are turned off by certain things. But that's what's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I could be wrong, but unless you do that, I just don't see why non-windsurfers are going to switch on. We're already got great footage of double forwards and, crazy conditions. What more can you do as far as the windsurfing? There's a limit to that. So then you go, well, if that's not getting the masses into it, there has to be another angle as well.
But are we ever going to get the masses into it?
No. But I'm not saying masses. But I just meant like.
I don't think. I don't know.
No, okay. Masses maybe is a bit wrong a word, but I guess like broadening the scope of the audience to bring in people who might have a semi-interest or just a partial interest or just something, because there's probably quite a few people out there that are just looking to be entertained by some interesting, funny thing, but I don't know how many of them we're actually getting at the moment, which there's probably a potential there. But whatever, like it doesn't, we're just talking about professional windsurfing here. It doesn't affect me or, I'll go windsurfing, all that sort of stuff. But exactly. I'm just trying to think of
how many windsurfers are in the world, right? And then how many are interested in competition? Obviously, I have a big say because I'm commenting a lot of the competitions. But why, if they're not interested in the competition, what do we need to do? How will they get more interested? There's a lot of people out there. Football's a good example. There's a lot of people that play football, but there's probably more people that watch it almost, that don't play. I watch football, I don't play. So how has that happened? And windsurfing is the opposite. We don't have many people who don't windsurf watching windsurfing, but we have a lot of windsurfers who windsurf and don't watch it. So that's what you've got to figure out. What are we trying to achieve with it? And then on the other side is like, how do we convince people they should be using windsurfing for advertising, which I think that's kind of a big thing, because I see some of the imagery, I see some of the stuff, and that is big. That is like, that is where, and that is where you see the competitions, the tourism boards. They're the ones that probably hold the key to more competitions in amazing places. And it's trying to do a good selling job on them almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe we just leave that aside for the time being. This question here, you talked about Mortafons leaving Duotone. What do you think about Maciek Rakowski leaving FMX?
Well, you know what? I was always surprised that FMX had so many top riders for a small brand. So I always wondered, I was like, how are they going to keep everyone happy? You've got Johan and Maciek, Justin, there was the Kestels. And it's like, if they both have a good year, that's a lot of money you're going to have to pay in bonuses and all this stuff. So, at some point, one has to give. I don't know the official reason. I think Maciek might have said it on the podcast, but, at one point you have to decide which way you've got to go. And that could have come from Maciek, could have come from Finian. I'm not sure which way round it came from, or, Johan. But at some point, when you are a small brand, have you got enough budget in your team to have all these top riders? I would have said not. And there's other things out there. So, yeah, I mean, again, it must be a very difficult decision to know which way to go. But you've got, Johan So, who showed a lot of promise, won the Youth Worlds, done this, and already at 19 or 20, he's already at that thing. And you're like, you've already got him on your books. You're like, well, I've got Maciej Bukowski. He's already won a world title. You know, he's done a good job for us. Do we go tried and tested, or this new guy coming up who, you know, let's say without the disqualification, whatever, you know, he would have won a world title. So you're like, which way do you go? And obviously we've seen the decision. Maciej seemed to think it seemed to sound from Maciej it was kind of like amicable and everything was good. So I haven't really got more to say than that. I think it's quite an obvious one. If it was a bigger brand, maybe it's a bit different, but a smaller brand, yeah. How do you keep that many people? It's just impossible.
Yeah. No. Okay. This was just related to our last conversation. Martin Molinar says a new windsurfing movie just came out today. Bittersweet. Check it out as it covers some of what you are talking about. I haven't seen it, Martin.
I literally just started watching it, and then we started talking about the podcast. So
okay, cool.
He was begging for money in the first bit. So
okay.
Follow it on.
What's Bittersweet? What is it like? What's it about? Or what's the?
It's George, freestyler, British freestyler. And I only just saw the beginning bit, so it looks like set in Brazil doing it. And I think there is a bit of talking because I saw the trailer talking about. I think he might have even been taking the piss out of me. The golden age of windsurfing. So I don't know. I'm quite interested to see what the talking is about. Yeah. You know, people talking about the golden age of windsurfing, and it's like, well, the golden age of windsurfing was the golden age. Like now, it's not even a tiniest bit, but it's way cooler now. It's just we've got less people. But you know, the golden age where money was getting thrown around, that has gone. It's not to say that now isn't as the coolest age of windsurfing, because I kind of believe now might be like the best time to be a windsurfer. You know, you remember the Robbie Nash quote from, is it Robbie Nash quote from the windsurfing movie? Now is the, or was that Levi? No, the Levi.
Was it?
The windsurfing movie? Someone must remember.
I can't remember which one you're talking about.
The bit when he says, now, there's no better time. Or is it Polikow? God, I don't even know. That's terrible, isn't it? I used to, when I was a kid, I'd know all the quotes from all the movies. That's what we're definitely lacking now. Videos with one-liners. That was my biggest standout when I was a kid, is the one-liners from the videos.
Got to think of some. This is an interesting one. Billy, let's talk about the price of sails and boards. And before I join this discussion, I want to grab a book that's on my table here, which is let me just grab it and it'll make sense. Hold on.
Let's talk about the price of sails and boards. This is an interesting one. I've got a little, maybe a different take on this, but let's see.
All right, check this out. I found this in my dad's garage. He was a keen windsurfer. He's how I got into windsurfing. Can you see this?
The Sailboard Guide, the first annual Sailboard Guide, a complete beginner's guide to sailboarding Australia.
Yeah, sailboard. This is the first. No, yeah, exactly. So this is basically a like it's a guide. Like you bought it in a newsagent, and it has every board.
I remember stuff like that. I used to look through it.
Yeah, like it's just got heaps of boards. And the detail, I don't know if I can't.
Yeah.
Like this is like one board. It has details like this. It's got here. This says foot straps, materials, foam covers over plastic base, amount supplied 6, number of fittings on hull 6, adjustability yes, method of adjustment. Like that's just talk about foot straps. There's fins, mast foot, dagger board, mast. It tells you every single freaking detail to the nth degree.
Let's do a quiz.
It's like quiz. Yeah. All right, you can do a quiz. Okay. No, hold on. We'll do it. What is the batten securing system on a Klepper S205?
The batten securing system.
You won't guess it. It just says pocket. I got no idea. Anyway, yeah. You remember the pocket? You put the batten in, and you just put the like a pillowcase. No, this is the batten on the sail, mate. Oh no, sorry. These came board and sail as one pack, one package. But anyway, the reason I brought this out, apart from just sharing that, is going back to the original. Let's talk about the price of sails and boards. This is 1984. This is 40 years ago. 40 years ago, I've just pulled up this clipper. For a board and sail, I assume it comes with sail because it mentions sail in the tech specs. It's got the recommended retail price of $1,395.
Yeah, 1,395.
Yeah, that's $1,400. But think about it; it's 40 years ago, right? Like, how much is that worth today? That's a lot of money. I mean, back in those days in Australia, you could buy a house for
hang on. For that type of board, you should be able to get that for that now, no? Less.
Yeah, but this is a board and probably a sail and mast. Like, it's like a package.
Well, even so,
right?
like a package deal. What are those beginner packages worth now?
Oh, well, yeah, that's true, actually. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's a bit more expensive than that. I'm not sure. But also think about the times, because back in those days, you could buy a house in Sydney for $70,000, which is the same house now is worth $3 million, like literally, right? So think about that. You buy a house for $70,000, or you buy this windsurf package for $1,400. It would have been a hell of a lot of money back then. So yes, windsurfing gear is expensive, or it can be expensive if you buy everything brand spanking new. However, I don't think it was ever cheap. It was never like super cheap.
No, I agree. I don't think it's ever been cheap. There was a cheap place where lots of people had equipment and they could press out boards. Because when you go up to that next level of producing windsurf boards, and I think you have to produce a lot more to make it worthwhile, where they were pressing out Bics and Tigers or whatever they were pressing out, Mistrals, like is it a two-part? I don't really know. I'm not that up in it.
Yeah,
but apparently it's way cheaper to do that. But you need a lot.
Yeah. And look, don't misunderstand me here. I'm not sitting here saying that windsurfing is like super. It's like, it's not that there aren't issues with certain windsurfing equipment. But if you look at what the prices have been over the last 40 years, I've never ever heard anyone ever say to me, "Oh, windsurfing's cheap this year."
No,
it's always. I even have a magazine from like 1992. And it had an ad in there showing all the slalom sails. It had like Gastra Slalom Foil Pros and Neil Pride. What were they called back then? The slalom sails, like the early 90s, the World Cup. The World Cup. And they were like $800, $900 30 years ago. So, would be the equivalent of 2,000 plus now. Easy,
but it is expensive now. I know, because I'm obviously sponsored by Swimmer. They're actually dropping their prices this year because there is savings in things that are in their whole process. So I'm guessing other brands will maybe have to do the same, because if someone like Simmer's dropping, then I'm sure everyone else will be dropping as well.
No,
but
for sure.
They are definitely, it's not cheap. There is some brands out there that are definitely very expensive. Some are more reasonable. But then obviously that's the same in any world. There's higher priced items and different brand names, and lower priced ones with lesser brand names and different quality of materials. And it's up to you as the consumer to buy it or not buy it. If you don't buy it, but you're still a passionate windsurfer, you have to find a way to get windsurfing. And if you look at the clearance stuff, the secondhand market, there is some really good deals, for what is quite an expensive sport. Windsurfing never been a cheap sport, but for what is like, a cheaper version of sailing, I think there are good deals out there. Not saying all brand new stuff is an amazing deal. If you've got money, probably doesn't matter. But, there are ways around, you don't need the newest of the new stuff. But like you say, if the brands want to make proper money, they need you to be buying the new of the new stuff. So, what you guys think at home has a massive, influence on what they're doing or not doing.
Yeah. But it's like, that's an interesting talk as well, because I don't know. I have to be careful what I say here, because I'm coming from a place of privilege. I'm living in a well-off country with, I can make money. You can get jobs if easily and all that sort of stuff. So there are obviously people out in the world that just really struggle with a lot of those sort of issues. However, in Australia, I see a lot of people's like a hobby is fishing, for example. That's a massive hobby here, right? I live at the front of my place. There's a boat ramp, so I see them all come in the morning. You know, people are rocking up endless convoy of people with fishing boats, which cost $100,000, 50. Like, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
50,000 is common. 100,000, 50. You know, it's like their hobby, right? Then it's loaded up with fishing gear, which probably is thousands of dollars. They pay fuel, registration, blah 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 blah, and that's just to go freaking fishing. And with windsurfing, if you want, you could spend a couple of $1,000s a year on secondhand gear and be good to go. You know, if you do mountain biking, you can easily spend $5,000 on a bike. If you're into motocross, motorbikes, you know. So the thing is, it's not cheap windsurfing, but it's one of the cheapest hobbies I can think of that gives you that thrill, and just so that out of so many things that you could be doing, it's a funny one. It's a funny one because some people say, "Oh, windsurfing is expensive and stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, but if you think, you know, compared to what? Like, it's sailing."
Well, I would say compared to surfing, it's expensive. For sure, it's expensive. But, and there is a but, windsurfing, I'm sure you're doing way more actually windsurfing than paddling around. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, but
no,
the thing is,
you can't compare it to that. You can't compare it to football. Oh, I only need a pair of boots in a football. It's not the same thing. You know, like windsurfing has never been cheap. It is more expensive, I would say, at the moment, or it definitely has been the last couple of years. I think it's going to come down a little bit, but I don't think windsurfing will ever be, and there's never been that cheap sport. There will be cheaper alternatives, but they won't be as good as the top stuff. And if you buy the cheap stuff, you'll be moaning it's broken and it's not working very well. And then you're like, well, yeah, that's life, isn't it? That, you know, and I'm not saying, but do you really think like the price is a barrier to entry? I really feel if you're into windsurfing, you can find secondhand stuff pretty cheap. Like I really do. Like, yeah, you're going to be upset you can't buy a new one, but there's plenty of things. I would never even buy a new car. That's not me, because I know as soon as I buy it, it's lost half the price already, you know. So everyone's got different mentalities for this sort of thing.
Yeah,
but I do believe there is some good value stuff out there. And
I have to,
is that the problem? I'm not sure. I really think it's this whole thing, and I'm not going to bang on about it, but I see it with the juniors, that coming together, those communities. I think that's what's going to change the whole. You need generational change. You need kids into windsurfing. We can't rely on us old bastards for the whole time. You know, I am one of the younger, older. I would say I'm like the younger, older threshold. So there's guys, 70s now, and then I'm like that sort of other one, and that big gap there is just getting older and older every year, and people at the top are dropping out. Some are finding new sports, some are have had babies, some are coming back in, and we see that a lot. Again, I'm not going to keep going on about this subject, but I believe we're in a good place. I do see, like here in Cape Town, there's slowly windsurfers everywhere enjoying themselves. Like, that's great. Like that's all we need is windsurfers enjoying themselves. If people want to be professional windsurfers, it's a whole different element. If people want to watch competitions, it's a whole different element. But in terms of windsurfing being amazing at the moment and having great gear, it is really, I think, in a good place. I think it's never been as good.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, I don't. Again, it's a hard discussion because not everyone can afford to buy windsurfing equipment. Totally get that. There's plenty of people in the world that can't buy it. However, there's also plenty of people that spend way more money on other hobbies that I consider super expensive. I've got mates that are into motocross, and they spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on that stuff. Like, you know, it's and there's heaps of those people out there. So it's. And the other thing is, once you're into windsurfing and you're really into it, the cost doesn't become quite the same issue because you're that into it. You don't mind spending some money. Well, that's it. I mean, but you know what I'm saying, though. You know, once you've got you understand the pleasure it brings you and the benefits it has, then you're not sort of, it doesn't become as big an issue. And especially hasn't become an issue for me because Ezzy has sponsored me with 3 sales a year. Thank you, Ezzy.
There you go. See, there we go.
And Ben, and you don't even. When was the last time you actually bought any equipment, Ben?
Don't talk to me. No, but I honestly, and I know I said this before, I don't want to keep boring people. I'm going to be that boring person who does the same story every week. But I bought a mountain bike worth a fucking lot of money, and I enjoyed buying it. I'd saved up for it. I really enjoyed buying it. So I judge myself about buying windsurfing equipment, and I guess what I bought today?
A helmet.
Bit of retail therapy today for me. Guess what I bought? I'm in Cape Town. What did I buy? I bought a surfboard.
Ooh.
I enjoyed it. Like, I know it's not as expensive as a windsurfing board, but I can relate to buying things. Although windsurfing equipment, I'm sponsored and whatever else, but I can relate to buying things and how it makes me feel. And I like it. There's something weird about me. I don't really like that, but it's like, it's enjoyable. Saving up for something, think, oh, I'm going to get that. You know, and again, there's obviously the price with windsurfing, it's almost ongoing. There's so many things to buy, and there's not many little things to buy. It's always like, you know, like in mountain biking, there's gloves. Oh, I buy a new pair of pants. Oh, I buy a new saddle. Oh, I buy some grips. With windsurfing, it's like, I buy a new boom. Fucking hell. I buy a new mast. Oh my God. I buy a new sail. You know, oh shit. It's like big items. So that's, I would say, the bigger problem. Right. Yeah. I did see it. Did I see a comment from, I've seen so many comments. Sorry, guys.
I know. I'm going through it as well. I'm going through it. There's a Nico Prian is in there.
There's a Nico Prian one, but there's also someone saying what Drives to Survive. Drive to Survive is the behind the scenes in the Formula One. Again, I haven't really watched it. I'm not really into Formula One. Doesn't interest me in the slightest. I know lots of windsurfers are into it. That's fine. And I know lots of people are into Drive to Survive. And I've seen it with the golf as well. They've done a very similar thing. They're doing it with all the sports. And everyone who has ever watched these type of shows always says, oh, I'm now more excited to see these guys compete. And it definitely sells that person who is in the program to its specific audience that relate to that person more, maybe by seeing these shows. Like if we saw behind the scenes with Paul Van Bellen, we saw him doing his striptease, you know, for the Chippendales on a Monday night. And then we saw him, you know, doing the podcast like this with his Windsurfing.TV hat. Then we see him drone in and he's hanging out, you know, giving the young kids high fives and motivating them. You know, you might go, oh my God, Paul Van Bellen's way more cooler than I thought in this podcast. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same thing. It's like you're seeing all the other stuff that's going on in that person's life. Obviously, it's not everything, but it gives you a much more understanding of the real person behind the outside persona. And that's the idea with it.
No, definitely. There's a comment here from Tomasz PVB. Are there any clips of Antoine complaining after losing the semi-final in Fiji? Unfortunately, I couldn't because I was flying a drone on a boat and I could only do one thing at a time. So, you know, obviously I'm very concentrating on flying a drone and I was seeing drama happening around me and I was sometimes shouting at people like, get your phone out, start filming everything. But yeah, not everyone does that or wants to do it. So there's definitely heated words, lots of interesting things going on around me. But it comes down to these are sort of issues that people don't want to see broadcast because, it's like as Ben said before, you know, there's an image. You want to keep it all nice and neat and not too much controversy. But you know, as a windsurf fan, just like everybody else listening, I'm just like everybody else listening. You know, I'm on this podcast with Ben, but you know, I'm sitting there going, "Oh, this is interesting." This is quite entertaining watching everyone, you know, seeing him in their element. But some full-on stuff. You know, you see sometimes people.
It's like there's full-on stuff in every sport, and you don't see everything. Don't see how a sausage is made. What's the famous saying? I think we've been there before.
Well, actually, it's not true, Ben, because if you go on YouTube and see how a sausage is made, it's probably got 100 million views. But
Hey, I look at this comment. 300 euros for a surfboard, not quite the same as spending $2,500 or 3,000 on a windsurfboard. Is very true.
But you don't have to spend €2,500.
But it also depends how poor you are and how much money you earn. You know, like everything's relative. And like you say, windsurfing, and this is going to sound terrible, but it's not for poor people. The guys, you know, in South Africa, there's a lot of guys here live way below the poverty line. They're never going to windsurf. And that is a shame. But that's just a fact of life. They're never going to be a racing car driver. They're never going to, you know, there's lots of things that money is a barrier to entry, and windsurfing definitely has a barrier to entry, which is logistics, getting the gear to the thing, you know, getting introduced to it, learning it is a bit more difficult than something else and needs you to go in the water. You know, there's lots of expense, definitely. But I know with all those ones where there's a lot of challenges, the reward is massive. And again, being a windsurfer is a privilege. Like being able to be a windsurfer, being introduced to windsurfing, having, you know, your family in the early days giving you the board or having the money to get a board is a privilege, and we should be bloody thankful. And I am 100% thankful. I will never be not thankful for that. Again, no matter where windsurfing goes, I know I will always be a windsurfer, and I pretty much will define myself as a windsurfer. If people ask me who I am, what I do, it's like I'm a windsurfer. It's like that's kind of my thing. That's it, you know, and it's weird, but that's kind of how I feel. So again, there's not a dig at anything. It's just that's facts. They are literally facts. You know, if you're going to go and find wind in the winter and you live somewhere freezing cold, you got to spend money to get on a flight. When I was like, you know, I was late to wave sailing and I didn't want to be a world champion off, and it just came organically. I wanted to get better because I used to race. I wanted to learn to forward. I wanted to back loop. I wanted to do this. I was like, where am I going to have to go? Cape Town. So I would be working all through the end of the summer to work up to get to the winter to spend 3 months. Then I used to rent a house and I would sublet the rooms to other riders because I'd be renting a house for 4 months. They would get a good deal because I would get the house for cheap. I would end up paying for my stay because of this. And you just find ways to make it work. It ain't easy. No one is just handed money as a professional rider and go, right, you're bloody good. First, you've got to get good. And this does not come very, very easily. You know, look at the guys from Venezuela, Ricardo Campello. They're training. They're lucky they live somewhere windy, but they're not lucky because they probably, you know, Golito's a good example. Didn't have any money for anything. Someone lent him gave him a Mistral. I think he had a Mistral heat wave and a wave sail, and just pure talent got him out of that situation he was in Venezuela. You know, and then he's gone on to win I don't know how many world titles and, you know, make himself like who he is and got to where he is from nothing. That sort of shit is amazing, like amazing, you know, and that isn't for everyone.
No, it's exactly right. And so a few comments here, Obnimi, when you add inflation, you're at the same price as today. And that's what I thought. But then Billy has countered that with saying, but that price is for one whole set of equipment. But again, my point was, and this is just coming from an Australian perspective, can't speak for other places, but house in Sydney, 1984, $70,000. Full windsurf equipment, $1,400. That's about 2% of the house value, 2%. So now think of the average house price in Australia. It's $1 million. Well, 2% of that is it's 20,000, isn't it? Yeah, $20,000. So you can buy, you can buy you can buy the whole set. You can buy a Windsurfer LT in Australia for $3,000. Which is the equivalent of what that board was, basically. So it is actually have come down in price if you compare it to, say, a house price. Yeah, but I'm not saying it's cheap. Don't get me wrong, but the other thing too is, this is another question I've got for you, Ben, because I'm a bit ignorant overseas. But what's the situation in other countries when it comes to secondhand gear? Is it, is it relative? There's shitloads. Is it?
Shitloads of it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think about Europe. You can pick up a decent equipment now secondhand. I know someone who could. Like anyone, you look at anyone who's got windsurfing equipment, like everyone's saying, it loses so much value. That means there is loads of equipment good secondhand. And the good and the bad thing with windsurfing is, let's say in the last 5 years, if you have a waveboard from 5 years ago, I tell you now, the new waveboards are good, but the ones from 5 years ago are good. It just depends. Do you want a new shiny one, which is also nice if you've got the money? Why not?
Yeah.
But if you haven't got money, you are not having to buy a new one. You don't have to. If you buy a secondhand one, you give the guy who you bought it off some money, and he probably adds some money to that and reinvests it into a new one. So the whole thing does work, and we need different levels of people buying stuff. Again, I'm not saying it's free. It's not free windsurfing. You have to pay money. There is expensive equipment, but there is secondhand stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's again, this argument about it being expensive. You know, I've got some people here, some friends that are sort of, I'm trying to get into windsurfing, and they're sort of started saying, oh, you know, we're at the point where we might want to buy something. So you start looking online and you realize, you know, you can actually get them like a whole setup for relatively cheap if you just do a little bit of digging and find, you know, you don't buy the 2021 sale, you buy the 2015 sale, which is going for $100 versus the other one that's going for 600. And you buy, you know what I mean? Like you can build things, which is totally fine. But this is just an Australian perspective. I've got no idea what is. You say that it's quite readable, but
you can do it everywhere. You can
yeah,
find deals
yeah,
if you really want to. There is
yeah.
amazing deals out there. There's good deals. There's amazing deals, and there's some freaking crazy deals if you know where to look and find the right people.
Yeah,
that is for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. So Tom Hoffman just said Sydney is also the most overpriced real estate market on the planet. That's true, but
I mean,
look,
I would
I'm just trying
agree.
to.
I'm not sure the comparison with house
Okay, so,
prices.
okay. But around the world, I'm just saying that things were comparatively expensive to what other things were around. I don't think windsurfing gear has inflated at the same level as a lot of other things that we buy.
Well, compare it to a surfboard. What was a surfboard in the 1980s compared to what it is now?
Well,
You know, something like an Almeric surfboard now is like 850 quid. I'm pretty sure back then it was a quarter of that price. You know, like things have gone up by 4 times or something crazy. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Or
No,
two.
but look,
I don't even know.
Yeah. No, anyway, it is an issue, but again, you don't have to buy new. So I guess that's the thing. But
okay, we've put the worlds to rights once again.
What do we got here? PVB, that Klepper would probably last you 15 years of everyday use. Today's equipment doesn't. Well, that's true. And then I guess that brings back the question of buying stuff that
You
does
say
last.
that. You say that. I'm
No,
only
hold
talking
on.
from my brand's perspective here. I tell you what, the boards we've got at the moment will last a freaking long time. A Klepper, I have seen a lot of Kleppers totally delaminated on there. I don't believe that's true.
Yeah, fair enough.
But
he's probably comparing like a big plastic thing versus say a high end, epoxy ball, which is a bit more.
Well, Klepper's not the one to compare it to because
whatever, like something like that. But I mean, but again, you're right though. If you look after your gear, then it can last a long time. But obviously, some gear is very lightweight and can be quite fragile, so you have to be a bit careful on some things. But yes. So
okay, hang on. I've got to answer this one. Vinter, that's different. A Vinter, is it a Vinter? A Vinter that will last, but that is just literally a plastic log. That's not a high-tech board. If you look at the high fly that they sell to the schools, that big plastic thing now, that will last forever as well. If you want a board like that, that's totally fine. I totally agree with that. But there are really good boards made, again, depending what brand you're buying, what construction you're buying, blah, blah, blah. But there are well-made boards at the moment as well. There are obviously lesser quality stuff made. So it depends what you compare it to.
It is actually a good point.
Well, yes,
because
the Vinter would last fucking a nuclear blast. I'm pretty fucking sure.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, you're right. Because if people are comparing it to the old days and say, "Oh, I could buy a windsurfer for $900," it's like, well, then if who the hell wants to ride an original windsurfer? No one wants to use a plastic windsurfer. Well, okay, it's not nobody, but I'm just saying you could make a plastic windsurfer like that for $900, but no one actually wants to use it because they want to use the high-end stuff now because it's just way more fun generally. So this is the other problem. We've gone from super basic equipment to like really quite cutting-edge equipment.
You've got to be careful. Your mind doesn't play tricks on you. Think back to when you were younger. Guess what? It was windy every day. The wind has got way shitter. I don't know. That's what my brain tells me. And I'm like, is that really happened? Oh, and then you're like, equipment was so much better. And then you get on some of that equipment, which I have done. I got on my old waveboard. Oh my God, what a pile of shit.
Piece of shit.
It's
I'm not saying,
heavy,
I'm not somebody saying.
the thing doesn't plane. I mean, I'm obviously a bit heavier now, but I went back on it just for nostalgic reasons. I was going to make a video, but it like the way the video didn't work anyway. But still, the amount how shit it was apparent. Like, equipment now is amazing.
Yeah, well,
And the boards that everyone's talking about will stand the test of time. When I was in the early 2000s, I got sponsored by JP. Again, this is not a dig at them now. This is back then. I snapped 8 boards in 3 months. You know, like there has been periods of time where boards were light, good, but they were pretty shit, you know. And I think, again, some brands get it wrong at certain time periods by trying out new things. Again, some brands get it right, and it's finding out. People know it doesn't take a lot. Word of mouth these days, internet, you can find out which ones are working, which ones are not working well, which are a good way for how long they last. But do not compare the Vinter Log or the bloody whatever it is, Tiger, like rubber bloody rocker, to what we are using now. It is night and day different, and not always the stiffest carbon, you know, amazing board is good, because you feel every bit of bloody chop. So, you know, like, things have changed.
I like this. So fishing entry, Quelch 77, fishing entry is so low, you don't need to know anything. Yeah, look, you're right.
The video coming out very soon. Watch this space.
Oh yeah, you're gonna catch some big ones. No, yeah, it is. The entry is easy, but again, the entry for windsurfing could be easy if you happen to have somewhere local that you could rent some gear or something, whatever. But once you're into fishing, like the people around here, I live in Geraldton, a coastal town, they're not satisfied anymore with just throwing a line off a wharf. They're all buying freaking boats and spending tens of thousands of dollars on it. So obviously, once they've got the bug, they're happy to spend money on it. Maybe not at the start, but yeah, anyway, I was just trying to make a point that there are people out there that spend a lot of money on a hobby and can spend a fair bit more than even windsurfers.
We're an expensive sport. Let's not try and kid ourselves.
Well, it's not expensive for you, Ben. For everyone else, it is.
It is. I spend my life to make this sport happen. Literally, if you value time, no, but if you value time, I bet you my equipment costs a bloody fortune.
It's true. Actually, if we add up the amount of time you've put in to get that free equipment, it's worth $1 million.
I tell you, it is so much. I'm probably paying more than all you buggers.
Billy's made a good point here. I am shocked when I go into a windsurf shop and see the price of harnesses these days. What the fuck is going on there? Okay. What the hell is going on with freaking harnesses, mate?
I will 100% concur with that comment. I totally agree, because I had a fucking shock the other day. Like, I have got the most basic harness, and I said to Simmer, no joke, this is so funny. The other day I said, can we just build a cheap harness?
Yeah,
because the harness I've got is just like a soggy strap thing. I love it. I'm like, surely this thing shouldn't cost that much money. If you want to pay that much money, or it's good for your back, I totally get it. But honestly, how is that much money?
No, look, yeah, no, there is, and there is some crazy things, some funny accessories, and Billy's also mentioned wetsuits. They get up there. Yeah, no, it's. Look, I don't know. I'm not in the industry. You know a lot more about the ins and outs.
I do not know about harnesses. I had an honest shock. I'm a bit privileged. I'm sponsored. Very long time since I'd seen the price of a harness. And something happened the other day where I had to find out a price for someone, or someone asked me about. I said, "I'll just get that." They went, it's 350 quid or something. I was like,
"Yeah,
what for a harness?"
Yeah, I know. How much are they made for? I'd hate to know. I'd hate to think.
I don't know. I do feel that is something that needs to be looked at. I need to plug in, but then I'm gonna.
Yeah, no harnesses. Tom has mentioned here, going back to the Klepper, 1989, they had a 100% failure rate. The fin boxes broke within a couple of hours. Terrible. Drove the company into bankruptcy. All right, so Kleppers, there we go. The other thing
I can't believe someone mentioned a Klepper. That's why I was getting a bit upset, because all the ones I saw, those yellow ones with the pink, got every one I saw was like.
But also, again, I don't know, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but comparing prices from the old days and nowadays, it's like saying, when I bought a Model T Ford, it cost me £500, but now my Ferrari costs £300,000. It's like, yeah, well, are we comparing Ferraris to Model Ts? Because back in the day, the booms and the mast, a freaking fiberglass mast and a crappy boom. Now we've got all like full carbon booms and 100% carbon masts, and like everything's so much more high tech. But people say, oh, booms are just way more expensive. I'm like, well, buy an aluminium one. They're about the third of the price of the carbon one. But who wants that anymore? Oh, I want the carbon one. I want this and that. Anyway, should shut up about it. But hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Just the gear is just a hell of a lot more high end. Adrian has said the biggest issue is new models in boards and sales every year. This kills resale value. In kayaking, a model lasts years because the molds are expensive, but resale value is way higher. Yeah, well, I think we're seeing it, Adrian, aren't we? That the sales are going to, sales and boards seem to be going to 2-year cycles. Will that be right to say, Ben? That most
I think we're going to see it for sure. We're going to definitely see it for sure. There's going to be a few things. I think we're going to see a few more brands go direct. I think that has to happen, or it is happening. I don't know if it has to happen, but it is happening. In conjunction with a few key players, with the shops, and with some sort of pro test centers around. Again, there's going to be a shift. There has to be. You can see what's happening. Things are happening, and people are trying to adapt. You look at all of other industries, they're all a couple of years ahead of windsurfing, and you can see which way it's gone in mountain biking and all this stuff. There's going to be a place for everyone, but everyone needs to find their place, and wherever that might be. But I think we got to go because
we're done.
I've got a Braii to go to.
A what?
Colin Whippy Dixon is here. He's just returned.
Yo.
Who's there?
Mr. Colin Whippy Dixon.
Hey, how you going?
Good,
man. Yeah, good, mate. Never met you before, but I've seen quite a few of your how-to videos. They're awesome.
Oh, nice. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, likewise. Yeah. Videos rock too, man. Good work.
Thanks, mate. You're the best, man.
Hey, love you, man. Good work.
Wait, Ben, this is fine. See, dude, this whole issue of prices has stoked the fire with people. It's an interesting discussion. Maybe we
have not finished this discussion. I think maybe that is definitely a topic for another day. And I'm going to go on the quest to build a cheap harness for the masses. Bring back the belt.
I love it.
Going to be out with a hook on it. Maybe that's what it is. The ProFit harness.
The Ben Profit. The Ben Profit no profit harness.
Not for profit. Oh my
not
God.
For profit. Not for profit. That's genius.
The Send It belt. I'm gonna get it.
I love it.
Okay. Let me make a few phone calls.
Excellent, Benny. That's your job. We'll get rid of the comment because where's that comment so I can start? Oh yeah, it's gone. Oh no, it's not. It's still there. Sorry, Adrian, we're gone. All right, so we're wrapping it up, Benny.
Yeah, wrap it up. Let's go. That's an hour and 50. Considering we're going to do like a quick one, it's not happening, is it? Me and you start chatting, it's all over.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so come up with some names for that harness in the comments.
Happy New Year, everybody, and look forward to chatting next time.
Yeah. Cheers, boys.
Ciao.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, tips plus the world's best quiz. The Cubs, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards or a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.